Hello, I'm Steve Thomas, M1ACB, RSGB General Manager and RSGB Convention Chair. And I'm joined here by RSGB President John McCullagh, GI4 BWM, and this year we're also joined by IRTS President Enda Broderick, EI2 II. Great to see you, thanks very much for joining us. I'd really like to start with a very positive discussion with you and ask you what you think's going well at the moment.
What's going well in radio? I mean, nowadays we've so many means of communications. I think the world has got smaller. We've more opportunity to meet people at conventions like this. The influx of YouTube demos where you don't have to read manuals anymore. So it's getting quicker and easier to learn, and I think we're developing faster. So there's a lot of positivities in the modern communication world. I think some of that is it will help and grow the hobby.
Yeah, that's certainly one thing we're doing as well, particularly with the range of videos that we have, YouTube videos, with all sorts of stuff there, particularly for the newly licensed or recently licensed, those sorts of people. That's going pretty well, and obviously we're trying to get engaged with the youth all the time, because if we don't get them in early, we don't get them in at all. And even if we catch them early and they go away, they'll come back again.
And Enda, I believe you had an ISS contact last week, I think it was. How was that?
Oh, brilliant. We had the RS, I suppose this was my second RS contact to be involved in. We had it in TU in Dublin last week, and such an opportunity. I mean, kids nowadays, as I said about the mobile phone, they can Snapchat somebody in Australia, but you can't text the space station. And we had some very young kids, 5th, 6th class, so around 10, 11, 12 years of age. And for them, the sparkle in their eyes when they see the radios and the aerials and the map with the space station flying over, it's just a whole new experience that they don't get every day. They arrive in there, they get the opportunity to talk to an astronaut. All these boxes that they take and experience that they're never going to get on a normal day is wonderful to see. It's wonderful to be actually part of, and I'd encourage any schools there with a STEM program to start to look and get involved with a radio club and contact the RS people and get your name in.
I watched that on YouTube or your live stream, and it was really good, and they were excited. You could see that the kids really were excited.
It went very, very well. At any event like this where you're managing kids and you're managing technology that you've no control over, it's a nerve-wracking experience, but that's part of the thrill. And I think the countdown, the satellite appearing over the horizon, or space station appearing over the horizon, and you hear the first break and squelch, and everybody's getting tingly and nerves going. But it went off very, very well. The preparations were brilliant. The technology on our side worked, fingers crossed. And in fairness, thank you very much to the TU people. The audio stream and the YouTube stream, the camera work, everything went so smooth. It was brilliant. Great day.
Yeah, and interestingly, we have one coming up ourselves down in Broadstairs, St. Peter's and Thanet School, I think. I hope we've got the name correct. So that's coming up next week. It'll be interesting to see how they both compare, but I'm sure the kids are the same all over. They'll all be really into it.
We're all kids at that age.
We are. We still are.
I remember going to some of the Tim Peake ISS contacts when we were doing those, and the memory of that just sticks with me now, and I'm sure sticks with everybody that was at those events. I think they're fantastic things.
We're blessed to have great people managing it. Seamus McCullagh, he's been involved in 5 now at this stage, and he's so cool under pressure, and everything is military operation. It really, really worked well. But like for the kids, and that, as I said, that was my second one, it doesn't get boring.
And it's a great way to get actually into schools and then bring technology, so the STEM subjects, to the people that are there for those events, those youngsters.
I think so. I mean, even asking the kids, what would you like to be? They want to be an astronaut. They want to be. They suddenly get a taste for this, and it puts an impression on them. If I go back to the one we did in 2020, it was a secondary school. So we were working with much older kids, 15, 16 years of age, 17 years of age, and they looked at it slightly different. they were more appreciative of the technology, and you're kind of influencing that mind while it's still fresh. To get involved in technology, they were at an age where they were going to decide on their next career path, whether, and we're hoping that was into the electronics industry, into RF engineering. I mean, it's a dying enterprise at this stage.
It's a big issue that we find, and I think everyone finds at the moment in industry and electronics generally, that everyone wants to be an IT engineer, a computer engineer. No one wants to be an RF engineer, and yet you tell them there's RF at the bottom of a lot of it, and they don't really follow that.
Your mobile phone won't work without it.
Without RF, yeah. So we need people in there, and I know that Ofcom are encouraging us to get people into amateur radio and to follow the path, so they can actually have a career. Definitely. That actually happened to me, but there you go, that's another story.
That'll be your presentation tomorrow.
That's my presentation tomorrow.
We did have great buy-in from the teachers at both events, but at the 2020 one, there was massive buy-in from the teachers, the whole school at that age, and they did an entire week on the technology and where it was going. So we're hoping that by introducing the science and the RS program into the schools, we will start to see some development.
Did you have much of a problem selling it, if that's the right word, to the teachers in the first place?
It's getting in there. A lot of the teachers don't understand that it wouldn't be as in Ireland. It's a smaller market. It wouldn't have the same history, and unless you're getting a teacher that is enthusiastic about a new science subject, it's hard to get in there. Very, very lucky that Enda, the lady looking after it this year, was licensed, and she brought on 5 schools and really got that at a national school level. She introduced it, but she was on the inside, and it really is having somebody in there that you can explain it to. Amateur radio is a very complex hobby to explain to somebody that hasn't got a basics of what we do.
Yes. I mean, they sort of think we're restricted to, I'm not being denigrating about it, but CB, whereas we have such a wider sphere, such a wider spread of technology and bands that we can use, you know.
Yeah. And a lot of those subjects are actually included in the convention this year. So we've got AMSAT here for the colloquium again. It's always great to have AMSAT here, and ARIS are with them. And then we've got talks about taking amateur radio into schools. And even our keynote speaker, Colonel John Doody, he's going to be talking about careers in RF as well. So all of that, I think, comes together by coincidence, perhaps, at the convention.
Not by coincidence. I think there's been a bit of planning, Steve. A bit of planning. Yeah.
So, but if we change back to amateur radio in general again, what do you see as the challenges in amateur radio at the moment?
But you, Enda, but clubs are a problem. I know there's some very thriving clubs in EI land, as we have as well, but some of the clubs have practically gone to the wall since COVID. People are afraid to come out, especially perhaps the older people, and it's becoming quite difficult.
I think that's partly the fault of maybe some of the technology I spoke about earlier. If you're interested in AMSAT, well, now you don't have to attend your local club. You can go online and meet a club in another country that are more focused on it. There are a number of people that are gone that way, so that they're not geolocated to any one club anymore. On the other side of that, you see a lot more people who are members of maybe 3 or 4 clubs. But to take your point, the days of meeting in a hall and putting some stuff out on the table and starting doing a bit of soldering, I think are fading, and that's a hands-on loss that we are seeing. It's that field day activity. I think it's where I learned all my bad habits, and I think it's where most people would learn their bad habits. It's harder and harder to get people onto big field days, but on the flip side of that, one of the things I do see changing are the SOTA and POTA events are getting very, very popular.
Oh, yes.
And we're like EI, we're seeing a number of people climbing their way to Mountain Goat at this stage. They're getting very, very popular. We have a couple of people who are really pushing the POTA. POTA is a problem on a different angle, and that's access to parks and insurance, but we're trying.
Yeah, we're going in that direction as well, and we have several people interested in soda, and one particularly on the board now who's very interested and has got me dragged into it as well. So I was up a mountain there a few weeks ago.
So you're not far off Mountain Goat now?
No, a long way to go. Long way to go. Long way to go. But Ben Lloyd, who's a recent recruit to the board, has been all over the Hebrides, the Western Isles. It's been very interesting. There's a great series of videos that he'd made when he was out there.
It's getting quite popular between the East Coast and EI and we say Wales.
Of course, across
just right across the channel.
Yeah.
A lot of the sodas are linking up very.
Wicklow Mountains across to Wales and all that sort of.
Doing a great link up there. So there's a lot of inter RF between the two countries.
Well, I was right up in the north of Northern Ireland, up County Antrim, and working up to Ben, who was right up 200 miles up in Lewis, the Harrison Lewis. So interesting time.
Actually, the 145 Alive event that was on a few weeks ago, we've seen a decline in VHF communication. Every time there's VHF field day, it's one or two big stations. Nobody turns their beams to EI. So the interest is dwindling. But for the 145, it was purely a chat, and it brought up loads of nets on every frequency. We had a load of people on. Conditions were a bit up and down, but it stirred something.
There were almost too many at one point. I was listening, and there's so many on one particular site and then on another site, and we're working each other. It was quite crazy at the time. It was brilliant.
Great to hear 2 meters
really
busy.
Great. Yeah, because it hasn't been busy with us, or, well, I'm talking about Ireland here. It hasn't been busy north or south.
No, and I could hear Donegal, I could hear Cavan. I'm from Galway, so we don't get VHF communications over there. It stops in the Shannon. But it was great to hear that activity around the country.
You didn't try the transatlantic test then, no?
I wait until the prize gets a bit bigger.
So wrapping this up, maybe what might be a tricky question. I'm wondering what you see as the role of the president in the society, and what would you like to pass on to the next president?
You do ask the difficult questions,
I do.
Steve. You really do. The president seems to make his own way, because there's no, at least in our constitution or memorandum and all the rest of it, there's no laid down rule for the president. So he really has to make his own way, and I'm trying to do that. And my focus has been, and hopefully will be, on bringing youth in and expanding engagement with younger people and with the whole membership really as well, because we've got a wee bit disconnected, I think, both with our volunteers and with the members as well. So trying to get things together. What I'll pass on, I don't know. I'll let you know in a couple of years' time. How about that? That's my cop out.
Couple of years, he's putting the putting a marker down. So I suppose on the other side, the IRTS is slightly different from the RSGB, a lot smaller, more condensed. We have, it's all voluntary, so you have to roll up your sleeve, and thankfully we have a cohort of 50 plus very active core members that are keeping the show on the road, whether it's putting magazine together or news bulletins or training. We've had a great group of guys take on an entire training wing and put syllabus together, and they're running that on online classes now for the last couple of years since COVID came in. But the role of the president, really just the team leader. I think if I stepped aside, the machine will stay going. There's such a good group there, but it's just trying to keep everybody pulled together, trying to direct the traffic really. That's where I'd see my role. And what I would like to leave behind me, I suppose, no more than we're a voluntary organisation, we don't have an intermediary or a novice entry path to the hobby. So when we're looking at my TY students, my 16, 17-year-olds, in order to get them onto a licensed platform, there's two syllabuses, there's two semesters to get that far. And you don't have that kind of attention span or that kind of time.
That's quite a big step, isn't it? From nothing to everything.
Well, when we were talking to teachers about trying to introduce this as a subject to get them through on their gap year, there's an awful lot to get in there, and they're not going to give you the attention span. So trying to get a tiered license system introduced in EI that we can start them off and bring them on a number of steps. Whether we've huge work being done now with Scouts at the moment to take Cub Scouts all the way through to Ventures and bring them through a development path. Idea being get a license at the end of it, and obviously that's a 5-year program where they step through each one. But if their only target is a full license at the end, they may lose attention in the midst of that. So it's to put that building blocks in place to bring in maybe a separate tiered license system that we can develop them on. That's what I'd hope to leave behind me. We've some work done on it, but there's regulatory and constitution issues that have to be overcome with the government yet.
Yeah.
It's a long program, but we're not expecting it overnight, and we have patience. We work with the regulator, and as I said, get there in the end. But the footwork has been done on the other side. The Scout program is really, really working well.
So, just wrapping this up, thanks very much. It's been great talking to you. Thanks very much for joining us. Let's go and enjoy the convention. So thanks, Enda, and thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. Great to be here. Thanks, John.
Enjoy.